Good evening. Thank you for joining us. My name is Adrienne Bell, and I'm a candidate for Texas 14. And with me tonight, I have Ryan Stone. Ryan is also a candidate in Texas. He's running for Texas District 10. And then we have our newest member of brand new Congress is Letitia Plummer, and she's running in Congressional District 22. So we want to talk to you a little bit tonight about some issues that some of you have wrote us about that you'd like to hear. What are our responses? What do we think about certain things? So we're going to start off and we're going to talk about the ACA. Now, one thing that I can say about myself before I even start with the ACA is that I am an educator. And joining with me, brand new Congress candidates, we are just ordinary candidates. We have a dentist with us. We have an accountant with us. We have a nurse. We have those who walk the same walks of life that you walk. No one's wealthy. We don't come from wealth or privilege. We are regular American small business owners with children, and we know the American struggle just as well as you. I'm an educator in one of the largest school districts in Texas. I have 2 grown children, and I also have 5 grandchildren. And so I know the pressures of being a single parent and raising children, seeking to graduate from college. Right now, I'm working on my doctorate at Texas Southern University. So I know about student loans. So I have all the same, well, some of the same issues that you have. So what you have in me is a candidate who understands regular folk, because I am regular folk and we're just ordinary candidates, citizens rather, that seek to do something extraordinary for America, because we know America is tired of party politics and putting politics over people. And our solution at Brand New Congress and Justice Democrats is to take corporate money out of politics and return the government's power to the people. So we want to talk a little bit about some of the different subjects, but first we're going to let each candidate introduce themselves. So we're going to start off with Ryan. Ryan, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Ryan Stone. I'm running in Texas 10 against Michael McCall. And Texas 10 runs from North Austin through all the rural counties between Austin and Houston up to West Harris County with Katy, Tomball, Cypress, those areas. So we have an incredibly diverse population spread out across all of those areas. We have everything from suburbs in Austin to really rural areas like Brenham and Giddings, small Texas towns out there. I'm running because our incumbent he's the second richest member of Congress, and he's very self-interested. He has huge investments. He did 7,000 stock trades, I think, last year, when Congress itself did 21,000, so he did a third of those. He actively promotes drugs of the pharmaceutical companies that he has investments in on his Facebook page, and he recently voted to take away healthcare from 23 million Americans, including thousands of Texans in his own district. And that personally is something that affects me because I got a later start in life. I developed arthritis at a young age, around age 20, and it was a particularly severe case. And the ACA, Obamacare, saved my life. And when I see the representative in my district get up and vote away those protections that keep me from being disabled, then I have to stand up and do something about it. So I am a city councilman. I'm an accountant. I am not worth $108 million like my incumbent is, but I think that is a particular advantage in this situation because I understand those things that everyone else is going through because I've lived through them. So.
Letitia?
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to jump back in, Adrienne. All right, hello. My name is Letitia Plummer, and I am a local dentist in the Pearland, Houston area. I am running for District 22, and I feel very, very compelled to run for this position because I, like you, have a lot of the same issues that we all do. So I'm a small business owner. I have about 7 employees, so I know the struggles and everything that's going on right now with being able to maintain a small business. I'm a single mom, so I understand the struggles there as well. I am a native Houstonian. I'm from this local area. Healthcare is a very, very big deal for me. 17 years. So I'm in a position where I every single day know the issues that are coming in front of us, and and my patients share with me the concerns that they have about losing their health care, because Pete Olson, who's my incumbent, has taken away health care in our district as well. So I'm incredibly excited to be with the brand new Congress. The movements and the things that are important to them are important to me, and I'm really excited about being a candidate.
Thanks, Letitia. Well, now we're going to talk about the American Health Care Act, because it is on a lot of mind of Americans, especially when the House Republicans have pushed through a bill that a lot of Americans disagree with. One of the things that really concern me about this bill is that it adds a crushing tax for those who are 50 to 64, and it will increase premiums. And the representative in CD14, he made a press release saying that this law, the act, would not increase medical premiums, which is just not true. So as I've looked at this bill, I just cannot find anything good about it. One thing about Texas, Texas has the highest rate of uninsured people in America. And so we cannot afford to have more Americans losing their health care insurance, especially when we have 9% children that are uninsured. And one of the areas that I seek to represent is in the top 5 of uninsured persons in Texas. So I really want to do something about that. And I am for Medicare for all. Ryan, what are your thoughts about Medicare for all and what we can do for Americans?
Yeah, when you're dealing with, elderly Americans having their health care premiums increase 700 to 800%, take away healthcare programs for disabled children, you realize that we're in a system that people's well-being, just their daily lives are under attack by these bills, and it's senseless, and it's something that we have to stand up for. I mean, regardless of our situations, I mean, we all come from different places, but I work full-time as an accountant, and I got that start in healthcare, and seeing that was like people having to pay their bills through there, seeing the waste in the healthcare industry, seeing it all come together in that one place, and then realize that pretty much you have this whole industry of these donors and lobbyists centered around not getting people well. It's just, I mean, it's a travesty. It's like, it's a moral fight, and it's something that we have to stand up to.
Right. And Letitia, as a small business owner with employees that need healthcare insurance, give us the perspective from a business owner and healthcare.
Yeah, it's very difficult because as a small business owner, we don't get any benefits from being able to, pay for healthcare for our employees. So I'm actually not able to be able to give, medical insurance to my employees. And because Texas did not enroll with the ACA, we're having a really hard time. So they're having to go independently and get insurance, and it's very, very expensive. And so, but not only as from my employee perspective, my patients as well. I mean, they're having a really hard time. They're having to choose between the type of healthcare that they get to have, and being able to have healthcare and being able to afford deductibles and the deductibles and the monthly premiums, that makes it more difficult, because to have lower premiums, you have to have such a high deductible that if something were to happen to you, the average person doesn't have $4,000 or $5,000 sitting in their bank account for a medical emergency. So it's a lot more than just being able to have access. And Pete Olson took that away from us.
I agree.
And so yeah, it touches me on both levels, from an employee perspective and from my patient base.
And one thing also in Texas, because we set not a good example, is that we didn't allow Medicaid expansion in our state, and we still have poor people here that need help and need coverage. And one aspect of the new bill that they want to pass cuts $834 billion from Medicaid. And Medicaid takes care of the elderly, and it also takes care of the poor. So it is something that we're watching, because the Senate is now trying to vote on a bill to push that through before the 4th of July recess. But they do have to wait for the CBO score before they make a decision, unlike the House Republicans, who just went ahead not really caring that 23 million Americans will lose their health insurance. And so we're going to move along and let's talk about immigration. Texas borders Mexico, and immigration in California and Texas are, and some of the other states are also huge issues. And so when we look at immigration and our thought in a brand new Congress, we don't want to see families torn apart. And immigration will tear families apart when you just take moms away from their children and dads away from their families. We were talking to a young lady last night. Her husband cannot come to the country, and they're married. They've got 2 kids, and it just hurts her that he cannot come here because of our immigration laws. So we need immigration laws that are fair, because America was founded on a country that brought in the masses, and now we're a country that wants to put up a border and put up a wall and keep all the people out. And we will not stand for that. So we want to talk about immigration. And Letitia, let's start with you. And we can talk about like the sanctuary cities bill and the immigration on the pass.
So the sanctuary city situation, obviously, and like Adrienne said, we are a bordering state, and so immigration is a very, very big deal for us. I have about 10 employees in my practice, and half of them are of Hispanic origin. So I see firsthand the issues that they're having to deal with. Cousins, fathers are taken away from my employees' cousins. Children being raised now in a single parent household because one of them doesn't have a clear path, because we don't have a clear pathway to immigration. I see it from a perspective that, even just the job force too. I mean, these people are integral fabric of our nation. And it's absolutely unfair for us to be in a situation to where they're stopped at a stoplight and papers have to be drawn. And that's unfair. It's not the way the action should be. Adrienne, back to you.
Okay, one point that I want to just make, one of the greatest quotes to me concerning the show us your papers hate law that Texas has is by Senator Sylvia Garcia, who I greatly admire. And she said, we don't want walking while brown to become reasonable suspicion. And so we know that that's something that can happen if you are a person of color. You do know that that can happen to you at any time, regardless of what age you are. So it is a hate crime, and it's a hate law to us in Texas. So Ryan, what are your thoughts about immigration, and even as it relates to terrorism?
Oh, these laws are built entirely out of fear and hatred. There really should be no bones about that. Is that they are nightlights for people who have been told over and over again that certain groups of people are threatening to their way of life, when actually it's the opposite. If you look at the history of the United States, it's simply change in immigration. If we stop that, if we try to stop being that compassionate, open, caring country that really was the city on the hill, then we lose our identity altogether. We start being something completely different, which is small and isolated and afraid. And I do not want this country to be afraid. So here in Texas, at least, here at close to Austin, because Maynard's right outside of Austin, we've seen all the protests at the Capitol for SB4, or against SB4, I should say, because SB4 is the law that we're discussing there. And really, it's against the advice of our law enforcement. Even our chiefs of police have gotten up and said, do not pass this law. But you still have people who they really want to advance that agenda of fear, that agenda of hatred, because they can't let it go. But we're better than that. And brand new Congress, their platform is much better than that. We have so many people that can come together right here who can stand up to that kind of hatred and to that kind of intolerance. And that's really inspiring to me. So I'm really glad to be partaking in that.
I agree. And what we need is a national immigration plan, not something that's left up to the states to determine how they're going to handle immigration. And one good thing about Texas, we do have some things that are not so great as far as statistics. But one thing Texas leads in, and that's in renewable energy. And Texas has a city, Georgetown, Texas, which is #1 in the United States, 100% renewable energy. And renewable energy is a top platform for all brand new Congress candidates. It is something that we definitely want in Congress, and laws that we definitely want passed. So we want to talk about energy and what we can do to help move our nation away from oil and gas dependence to renewable energy. So Ryan, why don't you kick off the discussion on that?
Okay, so yeah, Texas does lead in renewable energy, and that's something that a lot of people don't know. They're misinformed about it. And Williamson County, Georgetown, runs on 100% renewable energy now, and it's not widespread news, but this is a place where we are advancing toward the future, because one day we will not be able to depend on fossil fuels. So if Texas wants to continue being that leader in energy production, wants to continue reaping the rewards of that, we have to do things smart, like invest in renewable energy and stay in climate accords and agreements where we agree on these issues that are very real and affecting us, like climate change, because none of these issues, healthcare, education, any of that, would matter if we don't have a planet left after all is said and done. So we need to recognize the reality of that situation, and that we can both make our economy better and step into the future and be leaders and save the planet by embracing renewable energy and new clean tech.
I agree. As a grandmother, one of the motivations for me for running for office is legacy. And I want to leave a legacy for my grandchildren. And I want to leave a planet that has clean air, has clean water for them. So it inspired me to do something, and not sit on the sidelines and just talk about it, but to be about it. So one thing also, renewable energy in Georgetown brought in money. A lot of money to the city. They said millions of dollars. So it's an economic boom to also move to renewable resources. So Letitia, what are your thoughts on renewable energy?
No, I completely agree with it. I support it fully. You know, Texas is kind of known as that oil and gas state. You know, so everyone here thinks that fossil fuels are the most important reason why we kind of exist here in Texas. And without it, we wouldn't be able to be functional. We lose an industry that supports our economy, and that's absolutely not the case. We are a leader. We are leaders in that industry here, and we need to understand that converting to using to going green. If Texas were to go green, we would incorporate a lot more jobs and opportunities, and we could really create a situation to where our economy is actually boosted, and live in a safer planet.
Right, I agree. One thing, as far as let's talk about infrastructure now. I did a recent trip, and I realized that we're building more and more roads, and just for more and more cars, more and more for pollution, more and more traffic. I hate traffic. So when you talk about infrastructure, one of the great things with brand new Congress, we want to invest in infrastructure, $4.3 trillion. And I know it sounds like a huge amount of money, but when we invest, we're going to get a return on that investment. And we're not just talking about building more toll roads for us to pay more taxes to go to and from work, which is something I do every day. I spend at least $16 a day just to go to work. And it's an additional tax that I would not like to pay again. So let's talk about infrastructure, not only in Texas, but across the nation, as we have crumbling bridges. We've seen incidences where freeways just split apart. So what are your thoughts about infrastructure in America? Let's start with you, Letitia.
Yeah, so in my district specifically, and then I'll talk to kind of on a national platform, in my district specifically, we're surrounded by tolls. And, you know, actually, and let me give you one quick example. One of my employees that works for me, I literally have to pay her additional, give her kind of like a toll stipend, so to speak, because she has got to come to work, and it's expensive. I mean, she spends, like you, Adrienne, about $16 a day. And it's unfair for us to expect that. So we need a situation in which we're able to connect these counties. My county is 3 counties actually in a row, and there's one county that's dry. What I mean by dry, there's no hospital. There are very, very few grocery stores. So when I think of infrastructure, I think about creating pathways to allow those communities to thrive. in addition, it'll allow companies to go into those communities that are desolate and create, an economy there in those areas. So, in addition to obviously, doing away on some level the tolls, I think that we need to create, in situations in which we can, reach our communities and our communities can thrive.
Okay, so infrastructure is strong and quick connections. And that's what we're talking about, is just stronger, faster ways to connect people. And that goes both for roads, roads and transit, and for Wi-Fi and internet and things like that, is that we need to get people access to work. People out in remote areas should be able to speed into the city to go to work. They shouldn't have to pay $16 a day to go to work. They shouldn't be priced out of a job that they need. And the same thing goes for affordability issues. Is in the current state of affairs, people want to live close to the cities because it's easier to do a short commute. But then affordability issues arise with housing costs. So you suddenly get tons of people having to move out of their small communities to big cities. You get overcrowding and those affordability issues. So if we can give people an alternative, they can live and work way out in their communities that they grew up in, maybe, rather than having to overcrowd the cities or having to live an urban lifestyle that doesn't fit them. And the same thing goes with getting Wi-Fi out there to them, out to these remote rural areas. That can be a huge undertaking that we can definitely do, and it would be on par with back whenever the state instituted rural electrification back in the early 1900s. It was the same sort of undertaking. People's lives were completely transformed because of one infrastructure project. So
Right. I like to see the Wi-Fi extended just nationally. I am with my students. I have a lot of students who don't have access to Wi-Fi because they cannot afford it, and we take for granted that Americans, especially in an urban city like Houston, have access to Wi-Fi. You may have access, but you can't pay for it. So it's something that the infrastructure, whether it is building better plants for water or better roads, whatever it is for infrastructure, we have got to, as a country, invest in our infrastructure, because a lot of our highways and our bridges and our roads are old and they're crumbling, and we just don't want to see any more accidents. But we're going to have to put up the money in order to get back the investment. And like Ryan said, we will create jobs and we will make for a better America, even just traveling across America. One of the greatest things that occurred was the building of interstates, where states could connect. You could go from Texas to California to New York, and you could connect. And we don't see that kind of American growth, let's build America, going on anymore. It's just like, we got it, so what are we gonna do about it? So brand new Congressman, we wanna build and we wanna increase and improve America for all Americans, not just for the wealthy and not just for one party. So our last question that we're gonna talk about is, what makes you better than the person that's in the seat that you are attempting to take over? So this will be a time, Ryan and Letitia as well, to add in anything that you want to talk about that was not a question that was posed to you. So let's start with you, Ryan, and just tell us what makes you what will make you a better congressman in Texas 10?
it's just because I care about people. I mean, Michael McCall, he has done blatant actions against us, like voting against our healthcare, voting 23 million Americans off of healthcare without even knowing the CBO score first, without even knowing any kind of effect that would have. And that's massively reckless. That is a move that should immediately disqualify him from any kind of office. And he's worth more money than any of us will ever know. And there are people who have that kind of wealth who use it really well. They do humane things and they spread goodness and they try to work ethically. But he advertises those drugs for his investments on Facebook. He tries to vote away healthcare because of party line issues and because he thinks he can appease a few people that he promised that he would repeal Obamacare without a constructive alternative to it. And really, I don't think that anyone in his position, any one of us put in that position, would act that way. Like if we had that kind of power from coming from where we're at, you know, accountants, nurses, teachers, we would put them into programs to help people, because we've seen on the ground exactly how people can be helped. We know the constructive methods that should happen, which is why we're with BNC, is because we have a constructive answer to each one of these things, which is something that he's just not minded about that. He doesn't see those issues. He just wants to do party line things, and he hasn't even spoken in a town hall with his constituents since 2009. So those are just a few of the issues we have, but I have no doubt at all that I would be leaps and bounds better than him from day one.
I agree, because you're an extraordinary person, Ryan. And I had the incident when I told someone when they found out that I was running for Congress. They told me that an African-American woman could never win that seat. And I didn't give them statistics because, you know, I'm a statistical person, but it was a thought of, why can't she? Why can't an African-American woman win a congressional seat, especially if she's qualified and especially if she cares? So I'm going to pass it on to you, Letitia. I'm going to let you answer that question, because since you're a great candidate for TX22, what are your thoughts?
This is all about, I don't think that race has anything to do with this. I think it's all about what we can bring to the table. And regardless of race I am or what gender I am, I know that I am a mirror image of my constituency. You know, I'm a working mom. I have my business. I need health care. You know, my kid's going to college, like all of the issues. I care. You have a middle schooler, and when I'm going to high school, so education is important to me. All the things that it's, you know, touching me right now are important to my constituency. So I can represent my constituency a lot better than Pete Olson can. My parents are older now, so I understand how important Medicare is for them as well. So I am a mirror image of the people that I'm going to represent when I get to Congress. And so I know I'm the best candidate for it. And I'm really excited to have a voice for my community.
Very good. One of the things for me is I grew up in South Park in Houston. Anybody from Houston knows South Park. And so I didn't come from a family of wealth. My mom went to school. She went to 10th grade, and she came from Louisiana. They picked cotton. And my dad had a 6th grade education. So for me, education has always been the way. If you work hard, you get your education, you can make it. And that was the foundation that stuck with me. And so it's led me to become an educator, but I really want to see America grow, invest in education. And so my thoughts of what makes me the better person to be represented for Congress in Texas 14 is because I'm the person that will go to bed at night thinking about you. I'm the person that will wake up in the morning working to make your life better, because I believe that as we pass through, we're supposed to make this world better for somebody else. And I see so much of just party politics, and Americans are hurting and being left out, but it's just, okay, what's good for the Republicans and the way they voted on this health bill, it is just totally partisan, and it does not care about the American people. So my opponent, he's a Freedom Caucus member, and totally for the Trump administration and their horrible policies that they are enacting. So I am one who is against all of that. I am for the people. I am someone that wants to give power to the people and be a voice for those who feel as though their voice has been silenced. So we thank you so much for listening to us tonight. We have a dynamic trio from Texas right now running for Congress to represent America. So one thing, you know, even if you don't live in Texas 14 or 10 or 22, when we make it to Congress and we cast a vote, we are voting for all of them, all Americans. So we will represent and we will support you. And what we want to ask you to do to help us along this journey, we cannot do it by ourselves. We need a mass mobilization of the people. We need you to join us. We need you to go to our websites. My website is Bell, BELL 2018.com. Letitia, what is your website?
I'm Plummer2018.com.
And Ryan?
Stone2018.com. That's STONE 2018.com.
And I
Okay.
am Plummer with 2 M's.
And then if you forget that, if you go to brandnewcongress.org and you click on candidates, you will see our faces. And you can go to our individual websites and read our platforms and know what it is that we're standing for. One thing about Brand New Congress candidates, you know what we stand for. All of us have a united platform. We're running Republicans, we're running Democrats and independents because we heavily believe in the people and the power that the people need to take back from this government that we now have in Washington, D.C. So on June 24th, we're going to have a national day of action. We are going to knock on 25,000 doors in the United States. We're going to make phone calls to people. We're going to get you activated and ready to take back our Congress in 2018. So if you would join us, if you cannot knock on doors, if you will go to brandnewcongress.org and sign up to volunteer, get on our list. We will contact you and let you know how you can get plugged in to work for Ryan or to work for Letitia or to come work for me. And let's go knock on doors, make some phone calls, and let's change America. Thank you, guys. Good night.
Thank you so much.